Hi, I'm Michelle Fakos, an internationally renowned and award-winning expert on Scandinavian art. I've been lecturing and writing on this topic for decades and am a dual Swedish-American citizen living part-time in Stockholm. I'm excited to share with you my research gleaned from books, journals, letters, and conversations with other experts. I know how hard it is to find out about Nordic art because I had to learn to read German, Norwegian, Swedish, and German to do it. Are you with me? Let's get started. Let's talk about Skansen, the world's first open-air museum. It opened in Stockholm in 1891 and stands out as the only open-air museum situated in the center of a nation's capital and the only one seeking to present an even-handed experience of the nation in miniature. Dedicated to the preservation of national heritage, natives and foreigners alike flock to its seasonal celebrations, especially midsummer. In recognition of Skansen's pioneer status, open-air museums throughout the world are often referred to as Skansens. Skansen, whose name in Swedish means simply the hill, lies on Djurgården, an island that once served as the royal hunting grounds. Djurgården means animal park, and today it also supports an ethnographic museum, two art museums, the ABBA Museum, and an amusement park. Unlike most open-air museums, Skansen lies at the heart of the city, easily reached by bus, ferry, or tram. Artur Hazelius, Skansen's founder, was born in Stockholm in 1833. He studied philosophy and history at Sweden's oldest university, Uppsala, founded in 1477. Before he dove into ethnology and historic preservation, Hazelius collaborated on the production of school books, in demand since 1842, the year children were first required by law to attend 7 years of school. By requiring all Swedish children to use the same books, whether they lived in the snowy forests of Lapland in the north, on the rocky west coast of Bohuslän, or on the fertile plains of Skåne in the south, the Swedish government ensured sharing of the common ground essential to fostering a generic national identity. These illustrated books emphasized Swedish history, geography, and literature, as well as regionally specific traditions in the various parts of this long, narrow, and sparsely populated land. The national romantic ideas guiding this project were expressed by the quote on its cover: listen to the whisper of the pines, beside whose roots your home is anchored." Unlike most of his compatriots, Hazelius traversed Sweden in the company of his parents, giving him the opportunity to notice regional differences in architecture, cuisine, dialect, landscape, occupations, and dress. He was fascinated by his experiences and considered such knowledge essential for all Swedes. He decided to dedicate his career to educating the public about Sweden's history and diversity. In the summer of 1872, Hazelius visited Dalarna, the central Swedish province considered the epicenter of Swedish folk culture. Dalarna's historical importance depended on two factors. First, it was there in the 16th century that King Gustav Vasa launched his successful struggle for independence from Denmark, famously during the winter and on cross-country skis. Secondly, Dalarna attracted envy and admiration from other regions because of its successful resistance to 18th century land reforms that destroyed, often literally by fire, Swedish villages elsewhere. The government took this extreme measure to improve agricultural productivity by consolidating plots of land and requiring independent farmers to construct homes on their new properties. This explains the charming landscape of rolling hills dotted with red houses that typifies modern Sweden. Hazelius collected many beautifully decorated utilitarian objects and costumes on this trip. A year later, in 1873, he opened a small ethnographic museum in the Stockholm Park where the North Latin School for Boys now stands. Inspired by visits to the Paris World's Fairs of 1855 and 1867, Hazelius created accurate tableaus populated by wax figures wearing dress appropriate to specific locations and occupations, along with typical objects. Citizens who relied on their imaginations to animate the descriptions of Swedish daily life found in their school books could now learn by seeing these things in reality. Hazelius began traveling and collecting at a feverish pace, always striving for authenticity and completeness. His popular installation for the Swedish pavilion at the 1878 Paris World's Fair confirmed the correctness of his intuition that knowledge about everyday life in other places and times responded to a near universal yearning. In the words of one of his colleagues, without appreciation of the past, the path to the future is dark and uncertain. In 1880, Hazelius established the Nordic Museum in Stockholm. He also bought land on the Djurgården Hill that lies closest to downtown Stockholm with the idea of constructing a Sweden in miniature. 5 years later, he purchased his first timber building, the Mora Cottage, built during the 18th century in a Dalarna village near the town of Mora. He added to it other buildings from that area constructed as early as the 15th century. Soon he could present a complete Dalarna farmstead, a geographically specific type of architecture distinguished by a closed, fortress-like plan with dwellings for owners and farmhands, barns, and storage buildings linked by formidable wooden fences and a single gate. Hazelius was strategic about what he collected, always keeping in mind his ambition to present a complete and egalitarian vision of the nation that displayed socioeconomic as well as geographical differences. It included buildings from most of Sweden's 20 provinces, from the northern huts of indigenous Sami to a thatched roof farmstead from Skåne, a nobleman's manor house from Småland, and even an 18th century pavilion once gracing the gardens of the scientist, philosopher, and mystic Emanuel Swedenborg. Small towns were represented collectively by a city quarter that included glass blowing and pottery workshops, a bakery, a saddle maker, and Hazelius's own residence. Since Hazelius's death in 1901, additions have continued to Skansen, notably a beautifully painted wooden church from the village of Seglora in Västergötland, built in 1729. What is most significant and singular about Skansen is its purposeful and representative diversity. Skansen embodies the egalitarian, social democratic ideas promoted by progressive Swedish bureaucrats and intellectuals in the late 19th century. For instance, here is a nobleman's manor house and garden, but also a timber cottage constructed by its owners, poverty-stricken Finns who settled in central Sweden's Finnmark region. From the southern province of Småland, a soldier's cottage reminds Swedes of an era when affluent farms were required to provide dwellings for members of Sweden's citizen militia. Not only are buildings authentic and representative, but each is furnished with appropriate decor, objects, even animals. Instead of guards and plexiglass protection, Skansen installs knowledgeable guides in all its buildings. They often hail from the same places as the buildings in which they work and provide authenticity through their various dialects, local wisdom, appropriate folk costumes, and artisanal skills in birch weaving, lace making, glass blowing, cooking, gardening, and animal husbandry. Visitors may learn to card or spin wool, bake bread in a wood-fired oven, knit using handmade needles, or make brooms from tree branches. Despite its striving for an authentic and even-handed representation of Swedish material cultural history, Skansen is a composed environment with a sophisticated agenda. It reflects both the cultural values of national romanticism and the political ideas of social democracy. It promotes understanding of regional class and temporal differences, as well as an appreciation of cultural similarities. Visitors observe that regional disparities are of degree rather than of kind. By bringing cultural traditions alive, Skansen provides its audience with a psycho-emotional link to this nation in the north. The year after Skansen opened, Swedish poet Gustav af Geijerstam confessed, quote, "This exhibition of old Swedish life affected me like a dream, like a great popular poem set in reality. It is the Swedish people's differences that make such a vivid impression when one goes for a walk through this park," end quote. The Romantic nationalist movement unfolded differently and for diverse reasons in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. How, you might wonder? Check out my other National Romantic videos. If you enjoy this content, please hit the thumbs up button. And if you'd like to keep current with new videos and support this project, please subscribe to my channel. Leave comments and questions in the sections below. And check out my website, www.michellefakos.com, for related articles, books, lectures, and blog posts. What would you like to learn about Nordic art?